Hey everyone, and welcome to Motherhood Loves Womanhood. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how I made these gorgeous pajama bottoms for my little boy. You can also make normal trousers, going out trousers, but because the material is really thin and because it's winter, I just decided to use them as pajamas. So let's get started with what you'll need. Fabric, scissors, pins, matching thread, a sewing machine, pattern paper or any paper really, a pen or pencil. So these two are the patterns that we're going to make, which you can keep so it's even more perfect for when you want to make more in the future. We have the trousers and the waistband. So let's get started with the waistband because it's the quicker bit. What you'll do is you'll get a pair of your child's bottoms and you'll lay it on a piece of paper and then cut out the width of what the waistband is, You have to double it because we are going to be folding it. As you can see, it's a lot longer than the waistband that I'm using as a template. And then you'll just cut a rectangle, as you can see. I'm going to be cutting out the waistband on the bias, and the way you work this out is by stretching your fabric each way, and whichever side is the stretchiest, that's where you cut your fabric on. This will just help when putting on the bottoms and taking them off. That's why the waistband on any item is usually more stretchy. So once you think you found the bias, just prepare to cut it by placing your fabric on top and then getting this rectangle. And once again, you'll see how stretchy it is compared to the other way. So after getting your two rectangles, you're just going to connect the two by doing a straight stitch on each side, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Not forgetting to backstitch because I didn't mention that just now. Now that you have finished sewing each side, we're just going to prepare the waistband for when we need it later. And you do this by laying it out and then getting one side, flattening out that seam and then folding it inward so the seam is covered. It looks more complicated because I was trying to do it over my camera, but it's really not that hard. Then you just go to the other side and do the same thing, folding it, but flattening out the seam first, as you can see. Once you do that, it's a lot easier to fold, but you just want to make sure that the seam is flat so it can be flat, like that. And there you have it. That's your waistband prepared for later. So now we're going to move on to the bottoms, and we're just going to stitch along each side right until we reach the crotch area or the point, but we're not going to pass that point. Once you have done that, you can see this example of where I've stitched and where I stopped. And then from there, we're just going to grab the middle of each side, shake it out, and then there you will see your trousers. And then from there, we're just going to sew down each leg, or you can start from one leg and go all the way around. The first time I did this, I was quite fascinated. But yeah, I get fascinated easily. But yeah, we're just gonna go to our sewing machines. Okay, Cameron, it's your go, okay? Say something. Okay. Okay, so you're just gonna sew each leg. Again, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm not forgetting to backstitch because I always forget to mention that. And then just stitch all the way around. When you get to the middle, it is important to make sure that that seam is flat also. I think it just helps to connect everything better and just make everything even more secure. And then when you get to the end, we'll move on to the next bit. So once you are done with stitching, we can prepare to attach the waistband to our bottoms. You do this by turning it the right way round and then getting your waistband. Once you have your waistband and you're ready to go, just double check that it's folded neatly. You'll notice on one side that it's open. You'll just flip that over and then put your trousers through it. Once you have your trousers through your waistband, you'll make sure that it's lined up at the top, making sure the seams are at each side of the trousers. And then you'll just make sure it's all lined up at the top very neatly and that it's all leveled. Once it is all leveled, you'll start to pin around until you have it secured. You can use however much pins you want, just make sure you leave enough space for when you're stitching across. So this is how much pins I used, and then we're just going to take it to our machine and zigzag stitch all the way around. So now that we are attaching the waistband, we just want to take our time to ensure that everything is lined up at the top. If you've had to move some of your pins just like I had to, just take your time and just double check as you go along whether it's all lined up, because there's nothing worse than stitching around and then before you know it, one side of your waistband isn't attached to the trousers. I've done that before, it's so jarring. But yeah, once you have done it, this is what you'll end up with, and then you'll just flip it over and there you have it. There's your waistband and it's attached, and we just have one more step and then we're done. Okay, so moving on to finishing each leg, what I did was fold about 1/2 inch of the fabric over and just started to pin around. You can also seal a seam with I think it's called hem sealer. It's like these strips that you can buy and iron on. I had mine but they were too wide, but back to this anyway. You just fold like 1/2 inch of fabric and just pin around, and then you'll just do a straight stitch along it and then you're done. So once you do that last step, you are done. I decided to change one into shorts for those nights when it's not as cold, and like I said before, you can use this method to make clothes that they go out in. It doesn't just have to be pajamas, it all depends on the fabric you use. Thank you for watching my Sewing Wednesday video. I hope you enjoyed making this item, and if you do make it, at me at Makeda_Davis on Twitter or Instagram, and let me see how your ones turned out.